name's Nigel. I am the singer and songwriter of the Plymouth UK-based indie funk band The Curve, and this is my podcast, Songs Nobody Asked Me For. How you doing? It's middle of July, 2025. It's absolutely boiling, although probably down southwest here, not quite as boiling as it is in other parts of the country. So we're pretty lucky in a way, and it's lovely down here, but you've got to be careful of this heat. I played a gig yesterday in Tavistock. It's always the dogs that disturb me. And here is the dog. Here she comes. You can see it. Here she is down there. One of the dogs, anyway. And yeah, deciding to come in, probably going to pee, I suppose. I don't know. Are you going to come and settle down? Maybe not. Maybe. So, yeah, we played a gig in Tavistock, and it was an outside gig, and it's at this great thing, Tavi Fest, and it's wonderful. We played there last year, and it went really, really well. And yeah, they asked us back, and it's an odd one. It's kind of in the town square, and there are other stages. And yesterday, John and Graham found this other stage next to a bar by a river. And afterwards they said, look, if we get to play again, we really want to play there, really, because it was much nicer than here. It really was, where we played, I'm a bit distracted now. I'm watching my dog just going around. She was a rescue, a stray, and yeah, every now and then she forgets that she needs to pee. That's why she's got their lead on her, because about every hour we need to just remind her, take her out at the moment, because she's very young. She's only a year old, and just say, you need to go to the toilet. I need it. Oh, and here comes the other one. Whole gang. Okay, so there we are. There's the other one, and everything's kicking off here. And maybe I think she'll come and settle down. She'll come and settle down. I'm going to settle down. Yes, I know. So we're back again. This is like from a proper action video, this one, isn't it? Just when I'm just trying to tell a story. It's best to, interrupt me. Now, go and settle down. Go and settle down. Good girl. Go and settle down. Go and settle down. See, masterful me. There she goes. She's settling down. Right, where were we? Tavistock, Guildhall car park area with Sal. They've got two stages, just ground level stages, marquee type of stages. Good sound. And this year they had these two stages, and the idea was that one was playing while you could just go to the other one and set up. It was, just like Glastonbury, really, and it worked really well. And we were early. We were supposed to be on at about 5 o'clock. We were setting up at about 4:15. And the band before us in the other stage were a covers band. Hurrah! They're nice people. Wow, basically the lead singer keeled over and collapsed. Wow, and it was heat exhaustion. That's what worked out in the end. So kind of went over and got a bit involved, got in the recovery position, all of that sort of stuff. Then a retired GP came along, kind of, and he was conscious again, and he was drinking a little bit, but they had to finish. He was really hot. They wanted to take him to the local hospital just to check he was okay. Wow, rock and roll, huh? So then we're kind of in this space of just thinking, well, what we have to set up, and we had to play early, so we had to play a longer set. It was only the three of us because Brad, our guitarist, is away at the moment. So three of us played this. I think it went pretty well. It's a strange little setup because they have these kind of little marquee seating areas. I'm going to put a little video on here in a second because I played a little game. I said to them, look, for social media, I could really do with, we never get this massive scream for more and encores. And so I set them up to do it. But although, it was really funny and they were really good sports, everybody, everybody did it for me. I tried to make it look like it was like, no, we don't have any time. But you can see when you look at it that it's such an odd setup. People are so far away from you when you're playing, which is always kind of a bit annoying. But also, people are there. And it's an older audience as well, which probably sits with me, really, but maybe not with some of the other guys in the band. So I'm going to put that video on now. It's recording now, and I'm just going to say Thank you very much. That was our last song. We are The Curve. Thank you. Oh, really, we can't. I'm not sure we got time. Fantastic. Oh, okay, maybe we've got one more. And yeah, as you can see, I was just mucking around with people. They're really friendly, and it was great, really. That wasn't what I was going to talk about today, but it happened yesterday. So dog's had enough. She's going. I was actually thinking about first moving to Plymouth, singer-songwriting. And that's the thing, I don't do it much these days. I talked the other day about doing a gig with John where we just acoustic cafe, but I moved down to Plymouth. Goodness me, it's 30 years ago, I think, roughly 30 years ago. So sort of 1995. Probably pretty miserable because I'd left my band. That was the one thing I didn't want to leave when we moved. We moved down here because we had our first child and kind of thinking there's probably nicer places to bring your children up than London, maybe not. And so we moved down here, and it was a good move. It was great. Really the right thing to do. But musically, I just, I really struggled, as I have done in Plymouth, to find people to play with. The last decade or so has been a joy. Once I met John, it's kind of really made a big difference. But early days, and I found one guy who was kind of a bass player, but he'd been in sort of punk bands, and he could play bass. He was pretty good, but he needed me to say, do this, and then he would play it. So for a short period of time, he and I played with a drum machine. In fact, I remember what happened was we moved to Plymouth. Day before we moved into our house, we got burgled. Really useful. I spent a long time in the East End, living in the East End of London, and nothing ever like that happened. And I moved to this lovely sort of suburban area in Plymouth, and got burgled the night before we moved in. Don't know what that says. Yeah, a part of the payout of that, rather than I lost a load of my LPs and my record player and all sorts of things. But instead of getting them replaced, I decided to get a 4-track recorder. It was a cassette one. It's a Yamaha MT120. I remember it. It's fantastic. I did so much recording on it. And I may actually, if I can work out... The trouble I'm having at the moment is I need to change things from being on CD or tape onto MP3 so I can use them for some of the intros and outros. And by the time I do this, I'm sure I'll have worked that out. But I haven't been able to... I don't have a laptop anymore with a CD player, because they don't have them anymore, and I need to get a sort of cassette player or something that has MP3 compatibility. I might be able to do it here, but I'm not sure. Anyway, that's I want to try and do something like that. Maybe put one of those tracks that I recorded on the 4-track. I spent a lot of time just recording things myself, and part of what I did was I used a drum machine. I've got a Yamaha drum machine here somewhere, and would get these beats, but I would finger write them or write the patterns and write the whole song, so that we would do the song. And that's how we did a lot of our performance, and it worked really well. I quite enjoyed it. It was very different, and you had to be really on the ball with how long a song was. When it started, you couldn't get into a jam and think, oh, I'm going to do an extra bar, And when we played a couple of gigs that we did, you really had to be making sure that tape, we had to have somewhere, we used to have a tape deck, I think, and they used to have to plug it into the PA to make sure we could really hear that on stage. Otherwise we couldn't do it. But I think we only did 2 or 3 gigs. I talked about one of those when I was talking to Pav about just going into a pub over in Plymouth here and just asking for a gig, and they said, yeah, all right. And then we played a pub, and I do remember that it was the Cherry Tree, which is just near Peveril, higher Compton, I think it is, maybe that area, not sure. But it went really well, and that did, yeah, I remember that, but it didn't last very long. I think what happened is we got a singer to come and join us, and she was great, but she really wanted to organise us and tell us what to do and how to do it, and I think we weren't really up for that, so we ended up sacking her, which is the only time I've ever sacked anybody in a band. And then it kind of fell apart and we didn't really do anymore, and then I was left there really on my own. I only had my electric guitar that I had then, which is the Squire Telecaster I have on the wall there. which you can't see, so I don't know why I'm saying that, but it's you know, it's kind of one of those nice sort of, I would say, cherry red sort of, and it's one of the original Squires, the first ones they made, which I think are sort of known for being slightly better than the later ones, but maybe I'm just saying that because it's mine. I always really liked it, you know, but I used that. And then I didn't really know where to play or what to do, and I'd never really come across acoustic cafes before, or playing, you know, as a singer-songwriter. I wasn't really confident to do it. And Plymouth had an acoustic cafe in a pub called the Cooperage, which is now no longer with us, very sadly. It was a lovely pub. And I remember the first couple of gigs I played there, and it was run by a guy called Mark, who now, I talked about him, I think, in one of the, I get confused what I've shared and what I haven't. He runs a lot of festivals and stuff in Cornwall, and we're playing for him in end of September, I think. We're looking forward to that, the Lou Weekender. But he ran the acoustic cafe. There was a guy called MC Luna, or Luigi, as I've gotten to know him, who was the sort of compere and stand-up comic type of thing, who now lives in Barcelona. But you know, I knew him a little, got to know him there. Lovely atmosphere with round tables and candles on the tables, and they used to put sort of stuff up on the ceiling, sort of canopies on the ceiling, not canapes. That would be very difficult to put on the ceiling. Canopies. Really nice, and I remember playing there. The difficulty I had was I didn't have a plug-in acoustic. I just had an ordinary acoustic, and that didn't feel usable. So I knew a social worker in Plymouth because I was working in the mental health services, and he did a lot of singer-songwriter stuff and actually playing sort of blues covers and stuff. And he used to lend me his guitar. I used to have to sort of liaise with him to see if he wasn't using it, go round his house that evening, pick his acoustic guitar up, which is a lovely plug-in acoustic, use that for the night, and then come home again and drop it off the next day, I think. So I started doing Plymouth acoustic. There was another one on Mutley Plain, which is kind of a little bit out of Plymouth. And then the lovely Tavistock Acoustic Cafe was something I discovered. And the joy of that was everybody sat on these big trestle tables. It was in an old church, and everybody listened. Everybody had come to listen to the music, and man, it's wonderful when that happens. It's just incredible. And yeah, really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it. And what I found about playing on my own for a while was I could play what I wanted. You know, it was liberating. It was liberating. And I did do a couple of covers then, because it was kind of easier to do those covers. And again, maybe covers that I just wanted to do that maybe the band wouldn't have done. And that's the thing I found about it. In London, you know, I'd write songs and the band wouldn't want to play them, or they would, you know. So I had a whole host of songs that they didn't want to play, which then became part of my early staple of what I used to play at acoustic cafes. And then I used to write things for myself, and of course I could play wherever I wanted, so I did really enjoy it for a while, you know, and I played like that for probably about 10 years, so it's kind of quite a long period of my life. And it got harder to do, so I did it. Those three acoustic cafes were probably the main places I played. And then towards the end of my time there, the Plymouth Musicians Cooperative, which was a great voluntary body, started up an agency, and they signed a load of us up to this agency, and I did a couple of gigs for them. But I hated it. It was the first time I ever really got paid to play a gig. And I played a gig that was very bizarre at the College of Further Education, called the Goshen Centre in Plymouth. And it was a lunchtime thing. They had these lunchtime gigs that the PMC had managed to get. And I don't know, maybe I got 50 quid. I don't know what I got, really. It was just exciting to get paid, really. But I arrived there, you know. The PA, there's a PA there, small PA, but I have to set it up myself, which sounds fine, but, you know, I had no knowledge of how to do that. But I kind of did it. And there was no stage. In fact, I think there were a couple of those sort of school blocks that become a stage, you know, if that makes sense. So maybe four of them. I vaguely remember pushing them all together, setting these speakers up, doing this gig. And it was lunchtime, and they were all in this cafeteria, but people weren't really listening, you know. And I remember that there was a foosball table to the sort of right of the stage where people were playing the whole time. It was really noisy, clang, clack, 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 you know, that noise a foosball table would make. And then a ping pong table tennis table right in front of me, literally right in front of me. So while I'm playing, these two people are playing table tennis, and every now and then, a table tennis ball would come flying my way. One hit me on the head, but they'd come past me, and then they'd sort of have to go, "Oh, sorry," and sort of creep over and sort of retrieve their ball, and then I would just try and play through all of this. Really, it was just bizarre, really. So that was my first experience, and then my second experience, which I got paid quite a bit of money for, was quite a bit of money, probably £100. It seemed a lot of money at the time. I had to play for 2 hours at a pub in Paynton. I went with a friend of mine and his partner, friend Tim, and they were my audience really. And it was a big sort of like dance hall-y type of area. It was a big pub, and so I was there. There was nobody in it, and then in the middle of the pub was a sort of like the bar, the main bar. And it was kind of like a square. It went round the bar. This is my memory of it. And there were lots of what I would call then, probably younger than me, middle-aged people sat at the bar. And whenever I played anything a bit loud, they'd sort of go, you could see them because they didn't like it. And then further on was the sort of, I don't know, the main bar where there were lots of young people there. And they were all every now and then shout out, they'd be, "It's fucking crap, it's rubbish." And this is what I'd get. And I was just playing, I played 2 hours. So I did a lot of my own songs and I did a lot of covers because I had to fit this stuff in. Hated every minute of it. And I remember just playing the whole time thinking, I'm getting paid. I'm doing this, I'm getting paid, I'm getting paid. And afterwards I thought, I don't want to play all these covers and I don't want to get paid. I just don't want to be in a space where I'm not enjoying this anymore because I'm just doing it to get paid. So I stopped, I quit doing that with them. And then eventually we have 3 sons, and my third son came along, and I kind of knew something had to give. I had to stop, and it's the only time I've not played and not been in bands, and it's probably about maybe 2 years. And I did this one last gig, and it was at something called the Maker Festival. And Maker is this sort of place on the cliffs in just over the border, I think, in Cornwall somewhere, and South Cornwall. And a lot of people in Plymouth, if they were kids in Plymouth, they went to Maker Camp, which was kind of like a thing that they would have gone to when they were at school, like a big experience. It's massive. And they used to do this Maker Festival. It was right on the cliff tops. And this was the last gig I did. And I remember being on this massive trailer stand, the trailer stage, which this bloke had set up and bought because his son was in a band, and so he'd become their sound man and their manager and all of that, and he was really trying to push his son's band, which was amazing, but it was a really good resource. Only time I've ever remember being asked what microphone I wanted, which was a bit difficult because I'm not a very technical person, and all I know is I said, oh, SM58, because it's what I use now. It's this great microphone, SM58, fantastic vocal microphone, been around for donkey's years, but still really good. And he said, oh, good choice. And I said, yes. Anyway, I played this gig. It was packed. There's loads of people sitting around in the sun watching me. And I just had this sea view. I was just sun was streaming down, a little bit like it was yesterday in Tavistock. And I remember just thinking, if this is the last gig I ever play, this is a good gig to play, People were receptive. I played mostly my own music. People were enjoying it. People were into it. A couple of people dancing. Just me and my guitar, And it was amazing. And lovely experience. And I stopped for a while. I can't remember whether I stopped writing or not. I don't think I did. I think I really got into using the 4-track then. And I just spent time at home. I had a keyboard. And then I think things just slowly started up again. It was a little period of time I met with a guy who used to write songs, and I was playing the bass with him then. I don't play the bass, but playing around with it. And I used to just go and jam with him, and I always jammed on the bass. We always did his songs. That was okay for a while. And then something happened. There's quite a big age gap between my youngest and my oldest, and I think it was when my oldest was maybe 15, maybe 16, and he's an amazing guitarist. And so it must have been quite a few years into having had my youngest. Time gets very confusing, doesn't it? Anyway, he played the guitar and he was amazing. And I was asked if I'd be involved in this benefit gig for the, I think it was a drug and alcohol services. And I said, yeah, all right, I'll do it. I hadn't done that for ages. And I just got a small spot, do 3 songs. And I just said to my eldest son, and I just said, would you do it with me? And he said, yeah, all right. And he was, wonderfully classic teenager, and he had sort of straightened black hair, and he had this woolly hat, and at the time he had this flying V guitar, as I remember. And we started working on 3 of my songs, and I started saying, oh, I quite like this, but he just took them and he just worked them out, and he just produced this amazing accompanying sort of lead stuff, and oh, it was incredible, really incredible. I loved it. It's one of my favourite things to ever do, play that little gig with him. Really frustrated that there's nothing, no audio recordings, nothing I've got of it. But I always remember I can't really do it here, but he was at the back, head down, real sort of emo sort of woolly hat pulled over his head, flying V guitar, legs, in skinny jeans, legs stretched out as far as he possibly could in proper rock and roll thing while he played these sort of kind of like indie sort of mellow songs of mine, and me at the front of the stage there just beaming with the pride of playing with my son. It was incredible. I loved it. It was such a good gig to play. And then I started playing the Tavistock acoustic, and there was one called the Column Acoustic. There's a couple of acoustic cafes. It started again, really. And then I answered the ad that John had put in the music shop, and John came along, It's a different art, and I think I will talk about singer-songwriting versus being in a band on another time, I think, because I think my time's probably up now. But that was my experience of playing in Plymouth, Very few places to play again. PMC was interesting, because I had aspirations of other things, and again, I'll talk about that, how they helped and then didn't help in that. But yeah, I think that's enough for now. I probably need to go and find the dogs again, need to open the door to my office and get some air in again. So yeah, please do subscribe. Any comments, anything you want to say to me, say hello, that would be lovely. Follow the band, #music the curve, and yeah, I will be back, as they say, soon. Bye now.